the national shutdown, as this is giving us a chance to connect with people a little more informally, and it gives us a chance to talk to a lot of our leadership and connect them with our members and some of the leading businesses on the South Shore. So we've had a great lineup of South Shore leaders with these forums, and these will probably continue to May. This morning, we're featuring Carol. And by way of introduction, if anybody doesn't know Carol and Jack Conway Company, she is now the second generation of leadership following her dad, Jack Conway, into this. And there is a third generation behind her in the business. So it is becoming not only a dominant real estate force throughout Massachusetts and into New England. You can explain that one to us in a minute, Carol, but it's a long sustainability plan for the third and maybe fourth generation to come after that. She's been very involved in the chamber and was one of the 3 tri-chairs of our South Shore 2030 plan for economic development, along with Bob Rivers and Ken Quigley, who's on the call with us as well this morning. So, Carol, let me turn it over to you. A little bit of history about the company, your background, and what you're seeing, and then we'll compare notes with other people on the call and let people say hi to you.
That's great. Thanks, Peter. Thanks for putting these together. Thank you, Julie. This is such a wonderful way to connect when there's so much of a difficulty connecting. You know, I'm not sure that I ever realized how important connections were until we couldn't connect with people. And first of all, I just want to say hello. There's a lot of friends on the call today, and it's great to see all of your faces. And it'll be nice to talk a little bit about what you're all doing and what you're seeing in your markets. But let me start by giving you some little bit of information about Jack Conway Company. As Peter said, I am second generation, and all 4 of my children are all involved in Jack Conway Company. So we are a true family business. And the South Shore Chamber, our partners, our friends, are also important to us because you all keep us strong. And, you know, I really love being part of the South Shore community. We all support each other, and it's really important, especially during these uncertain times. We do focus on real estate sales and both commercial and residential. We have 30 sales offices from North Shore up in Swampscott all the way down the tip of the Cape in Harwich. We go out to some of the western areas and South Coast. We also have a joint venture mortgage company. We are a 50-50 owner with a company called Conway Financial Services. We have insurance offerings, moving services, now staging services, home warranty, and we do relocation. So in addition to our 30 sales offices all over Massachusetts, we're a member of an organization called Leading Real Estate Companies of the World, which I sit on the board for that. We are 575 independently owned companies all over the world, and we support each other. So for instance, if you know of somebody that might be looking for a home in the South Shore, hopefully you think of Conway, and thank you, so many of you do, and I appreciate it. But they're also looking in Vermont or Texas or even in Italy or Spain or anywhere around the world, we can actually help them. And what's nice about that is we can give them a soft introduction to a reputable company that's similar to ours and has similar values. So now more than ever, our relationship as independents are so important. And because we're all going through this same struggle, and depending on what part of the country and the part of the world we are in, we're all going through it a little bit differently. So I've had the opportunity to be able to compare a lot of stories and best practices with a lot of those companies. And that's been a great way to get an idea of what's going on around the world as well. So to give you just a little bit of an update on what's going on in the real estate market, you know, Mary Lou asked the question as soon as when she popped on, and it was kind of an interesting question. And I think most people think there's absolutely nothing going on in real estate right now. Well, I will say there's not as much as usual. This is not our robust spring market that we generally like to see. But let me give you a little story of what's going on. So first quarter, rocking and rolling. Everything was wonderful. We're up over 25% over last year. Inventory remained down. Of course, we all know interest rates are down. Unemployment is down. Everything's looking good. Okay, we can all we all remember that way back 6 weeks ago. And then, of course, all of our lives changed drastically. And, you know, so we're dealing with the effects of the COVID-19 on our businesses, on our personal lives. You know, I look around on this screen. I know all of you have your share of challenges with this situation, and my heart goes out to you all because it's very, very difficult for all of us. You know, we're managing not only the financial parts of our companies and our nonprofits, there's a number of important nonprofit partners on this call, but also the emotional piece of this and how to navigate the health issues and what decisions do we have to make. So it's been a lot for all of us. So, you know, things changed. And on the real estate world, you know, they talk about, we all hear about supply chain. Well, we don't have a supply chain per se in real estate because we're a service business, but I call our supply chain our home inspectors, our appraisers, whether a property can get a smoke detector, can we get a mortgage, can a buyer get a mortgage, can we close on the house once a person does get a mortgage, can my realtors list and sell property? So that's my supply chain. So early on in this crisis, the big question was this big pipeline. And Chris, listen, I know you talk about the snake, the python, getting all those PPP loans, which you've done so beautifully to the snake. And I remember that because I was thinking about that with our pipeline. We had this huge pipeline and all these buyers and sellers that are itching to close on their homes. And early on in this crisis, we didn't know whether they would be able to. So we weren't sure if our supply chain would break. Would our appraisers be able to actually go into homes? Would we be able to get our smoke detectors? So there were a lot of breaks along the way. For instance, it was very difficult to get a fire department to come out in a lot of our towns to do smoke detectors at the end, but the governor released some of those requirements. So we worked through these things. So the good news is that big pipeline, and maybe you were part of it, maybe you were buying or selling a home during that, we were able to close that out. So that was good news. Our business didn't just stop. So that was huge. So that was the first hurdle to get over. And then of course, in the middle of that hurdle, we're making the same determinations that you all are. You know, are we closing? Are we opening? Are we essential? Are we non-essential? Real estate companies were deemed an essential business by the governor, but we're still very much limited in what we can do. For instance, none of my 30 offices are open. I actually could be open. I chose not to be open because I can't really control the number of people that are coming and going with my realtors. I know they can work remotely. I can give them the ability to do so. So we immediately went, worked on our whole virtual agent program. So our agents, if they chose to do business, because some of them, especially if they're on the older side, or sorry, I include myself, or if they have any type of physical challenge, they may not want to do business in this type of environment. But most of my realtors do, if they can do it safely. So we worked really hard in putting together a virtual program. You know, now our appraisers are mostly doing drive-bys. The bankers on the call know that. Where an agent can actually show a property virtually using a lot more tools. There's a lot of videography that's very refined now. I have a realtor that shared with me yesterday that she sold a home in Plymouth completely by FaceTime. So things are happening. So basically now what we're seeing is, yes, business has dropped off. We know that. New contracts, new listings, people are kind of, you know, either because of fear, or maybe because of loss of job, or maybe because of a concern of loss of job. But what's interesting is in the last week, especially in some of these sunny days that have been very few and far between, we've been seeing a ton of buyer demand. So over the last 30 days, to give you an idea, already our inventory, so our inventory, of course, our properties on the market, was already tight. Then we jumped into this scenario and it became tighter. Price of homes have actually increased by 33% in the last 30 days. 33%. In the last 60 days, prices have increased by 22%. I'm telling you that.
That's incredible.
I know, it's incredible, isn't it, Chris? So I'm telling you that because if a property goes on the market now, it is getting scooped up. Tale of a story, my daughter is actually a realtor with me, and she had a beautiful listing right in Situate, and she had forgotten her brochures at home. And she asked me, Mom, can you run over and get my brochures for me? So I went over, picked up the brochures, had my mask on, and I went in and brought her the brochures. Okay, here's the visual. Up and down Countryway in Situate were no less than 15 cars, people waiting in their cars, all with their masks on and their gloves. My realtors are going through a process we've deemed, we call it open showing. So it's not an open house where people are all in each other's space. It's called an open showing, where they keep the property open for say 4 hours on a Saturday, but visits come in one family at a time, and they have to have masks on, they have to have gloves on, they're not to touch anything. And in between all those showings, my realtors wipe everything down that they've touched. So it's all scheduled, the sellers are comfortable with that. So that property, to give an example, and this is happening everywhere, this is just one example, 37 showings, 37, 18 offers, property went over $30,000 over asking. You might be wondering who those people were, and I asked Corey the details. This is interesting. 37 people, all of them except for 6 were first-time buyers living in the city in apartments or condos, and they foresee that they will be working remotely for a pretty long time into the foreseeable future. So what's happening? Real estate happens when change happens. And sadly, we're going through changes. So people are going to there's a flight from the city. We're seeing that. There's people that may want to move mom or dad into their home. Maybe there's people that want smaller. Maybe they want an office. Maybe they just hate their house because they've been stuck in it for weeks. So what we're seeing, as much as the market has absolutely retracted, there is a demand out there that's very interesting, and so we're seeing a curve that took a kind of a deep V down, and now it's starting to build up a little bit, not fast, but little by slow. So in closing, what I want to say to you is we are being very careful as realtors. My realtors are being extremely cautious about what the conversations they're having with their sellers and their buyers. If there's any concern, no, I don't want people in my house, then hey, you hold off. We pause. We do it in a couple months. So I'm really proud of them. I'm sure you're all proud of your staff. I mean, I cannot even believe the ability to adapt that I've seen out there. And so it's been an interesting time. And but that's enough from me. I would love to hear from all of you. And if maybe you have some specific questions relating to real estate or anything else, but you know, it's really good to see you all. And, you know, I wish you all the very, very best getting through all this. I'm certain that we're all going to be smarter and stronger on the other side of this. And we're going to be the incredibly strong South Shore unit that we always have been.
So I'm going to ask you a quick question because this is really pertinent to me right now. So are you seeing houses in a certain price range going more or less, or because at first we were thinking, well, if we were going to stay, maybe we would put it off until next spring. And then I started thinking next spring could be much worse because everything could only, you know, keep snowballing. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering if you see a difference in price points or anything like that.
So Kathy, great question. First of all, anything that's priced for the first-time home buyer. So when I say that of course depends on the area. Okay, mm-hmm. You know, that could be $500,000 in some towns. It could be $700,000 or $800,000 in others. Okay, so anything that is for a first-time home buyer is going like that, very, very quick. But pretty much everything across the board, Kathy, there is demand because I think I would probably take the very, very high end out of that. But anything that is you know, anything up to the $1 million price range or even just over $1 million, the demand is much stronger than it was before. So just about across the board, because so many people have chosen to take their houses off the market. So even if you think about the $1 million price range, which doesn't tend to go quickly, people will take their properties off the market because they think, you know, I'm not going to sanitize my house every single time a person comes through. I mean, think about that. There's a lot of anxiety and stress around that. So now think about human nature. If you figure every 4 or 5 people have made that decision, your inventory is less. And then, of course, it's true supply and demand story.
And what's the closing cycle like? Have you seen what the closing cycle looks like as well?
As far as timing or just level of difficulty?
Well, a little bit of both.
It's a little trickier. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily longer, but it's awkward. You know, it's, you know, each time, like for instance, I was talking to a realtor the other day, and she has a property under agreement, and it's a property that needs a lot of work. So each time that she has a, you know, whether the roofer coming in, the person that's going to do the siding, first of all, not everybody's working. So it takes a little while to get people. It's a little bit more difficult to get inspections. So anytime they have to schedule something, everything's just clunkier. It's happening, and there's incredible resilience and diligence in doing so, but it's just a little bit clunkier. Now, if you're a person that doesn't like the idea of an open house, you know, I mean, I'm not a big fan. If I'm selling my own home, I don't want an open house. Open houses are great to sell a home. We can't do open houses right now. So they're very, very planned. So in some ways, you have a little bit more control, and then you have a little bit less control in others.
Okay, thanks.
Carol, as a follow-on,
Really interesting.
as a
Hi,
follow-on, what
Paula.
about the vacation home market, second home market?
Yeah, that's very much driven by the stock market. So whatever the stock market happens to be doing at that time, the vacation homes are following. That's any market that can be paused right now, we're seeing pause. So again, if the market overall has been affected, but if you're a seller, you're in an enviable situation. If you're a buyer, there's not a lot to look at.
Carol, just wondering on those statistics you put out where in the last 30 days you've seen a 33% price appreciation and a 20% price appreciation in the last 60. Is that Plymouth County? Is that statewide? What do those stats represent?
That's in our footprint, Rich. I haven't actually broken it down by area, and I'm happy to do so. I could probably give you some anecdotal feelings on that, but I won't venture to guess. But that's basically our footprint, which is southeast of Mass. Okay.
And then I just wondered you had mentioned, you know, starter homes, the most popular price point in the market right now. Has that really changed at all from the last year or two? I mean, it seems like that piece of the market, it's always tough to find a reasonably priced home in a suburban market, right?
It's just made it more difficult, or more intense. That might be a better word than difficult. So you take that market that, you're right, Rich, it's been on fire for some time, and now double it and triple it. You know, there's a human element to this. I mean, there's a human element to everything we do, right? The business part. At risk of maybe saying something I shouldn't say, younger people have a tendency to be a little bit more comfortable with being out and about right now. That's what we're seeing. And I also am seeing that some of my younger realtors are a little bit more comfortable, you know, so that is entering into it. You know, my realtors that are dealing with, you know, mainly the second time buyer or second home, or have been in the business for many, many, many years, their business is actually off a little bit more than some of the people that are really working with the first-time home buyers, where, to your point, Rich, that was pretty even before. You know, all markets were pretty busy.
Good. Carol, can I ask, Steve, are you raising your hand?
He is.
Steve Gilman?
Yes. Hi, good morning. Hi, Carol. Nice to meet you. Steve Gilman here with Janus Realty Group. So we are exclusively commercial real estate brokers. And, you know, it's interesting what you said about everything being on pause right now. We're seeing that for the most part, the deals that we had under agreement before the epidemic are still going through. Some are falling out. Some people are losing their deposits. But as far as new business, everybody just seems so uncertain as to what their needs are going to be that everything is, like you said, on pause. I'm wondering what you're seeing on the commercial end in Conway.
That's a great question. Steve, what's interesting is on the residential side, I actually think it's less on pause than I thought it was going to be. There's certain markets like the second home that may be, but that's been the interesting piece about this is it's not truly on pause. It's slower, but not on pause. Commercial, I would say, is a bit more on pause. And I think that has to do with, and as you know, we do a commercial department at Conway, and that has more to do with the fact that I think people are trying to get the lay of the land as far as, you know, will people need the space that they're using right now? You know, so many people are finding that we can actually work from home and we can be efficient working remotely. So I'm curious to see if you're seeing the same thing. You know, the other piece we're seeing, we're also manage a number of properties as well. I'm sure, Rich, you're probably seeing this. You know, there's a good percentage of my businesses, and they're all generally all small businesses, local businesses that are looking for some type of reduction in their rents. So we're seeing quite a bit of that too. So there is some pause. We're also in the marina business, and we've seen a little bit of people saying, you know, I want to see if I'm going to have a job in a month or so before I put my deposit down. But for the most part, good news in the marina business is people just can't wait to get out on the boat. So that almost has become an essential business in people's minds.
Yeah, I can tell you, I certainly fit into that category. I'm planning on putting mine in on Sunday, and it's the most exciting thing I'll be doing for weeks, not months.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are you seeing, Steve, in your business?
Like you said, I mean, people just unsure of what their needs are going to be. You know, I've had a few people approach me over the past couple of weeks saying, you know, I need this office space. And then a few days later, well, our funding isn't as certain as we thought it was, and we need to put this on hold for a while.
Interesting.
You know, the deals that we've had under agreement for a while, especially with developers developing new, you know, mixed use buildings are still going through. The demand is still there, so people are still anxious to get that, and a lot of town officials have you know, made great accommodations to help put those through.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Do you find, you know, I'm kind of curious what you're all seeing on the PPP money. Do you feel that there was, with the PPP money coming through and our local banks, including, you know, I think, Chris, you're the only banker on here, and Rockland Trust happens to be our bank. They've been our bank for many, many years and have taken good care of us. But do you feel that maybe that's helping a lot of your companies, or have you seen an effect on that with that?
I think it's helping them stay afloat, but they're still just treading water.
Yeah.
Carol, I have a question. Where would you direct somebody who is trying to balance the pros and cons of the housing market and whether or not to take a very volatile IRA, for example, to withdraw from that to put on a down payment? Where's the balance? And how do you determine if that's a good idea right now with such uncertainty?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, honestly, I generally tell my realtors, those are the discussions to have with Paula Harris and your accountants and your trusted advisors. But my realtors, basically what they would be able to do is to provide them, okay, this is what we're seeing now. What's very difficult with this situation is we don't know. I'm telling you, real estate statistics is always a lagging indicator. You know, I'm telling you what happened yesterday. Anecdotally, I can tell you what's going to happen ahead. And the anecdotal piece is mainly traffic in homes, you know, because the traffic is high right now, but again, not high compared to a normal spring market. So I'm not sure that I could even touch on that. I don't think I feel that first of all, I would advise a person. I think they would have to make that decision on their own. And some of the people that are smarter than me on this call about that topic might be able to help. I do want to say I'm going to change the topic a little bit with Mal. Mal runs an organization called Schools on Wheels. Can I give you a quick shout out?
Oh my goodness, please do.
I love this, Mal. She does a great job. Mal was introduced to me by one of the managers of my office, is my Hingham office, Karen Doonan, and they collect school supplies for homeless children. And you know, I learned from Mal that the average age of a homeless person in Massachusetts is 8 years old. So if you picture the stress that homeless people are going on already, I mean, how do you social distance in many of these situations? And then you layer on the challenges with the children. So Mal's organization is doing an incredible job, and we have a link together with many of our other great nonprofits we work with, including Social Hospital. I see Jess and Angela on our website to be able to give. So that's a great organization. It's been exciting to learn about it. Sorry, Peter.
We so appreciate you came in, and this partnership has been such a significant difference, and we really salute you. And Karen is the best. Shout out to her.
She's a sweetheart. She is.
Say,
So-
Peter, I have something I want to ask if I could.
Sure.
Yeah, so Carol, you do a magnificent job sort of building community within your company. I mean, great events, get-togethers, celebrations, and so on. How do you, what are you doing in today's day where you can't do that as much? You can't do that really at all to keep everybody's spirits high and the sense of community and enthusiasm and momentum?
I love that question. First, Chris, what a compliment coming from you, because you are the king of that, and you give me a lot of inspiration. So thank you for saying that. You know, Conway we are known for, you know, we're known for our big hugs. I'm a hugger. Anyone that knows me, I like to make connections. You know, I think that's how we all can grow in this world. And the reason why we have so many sales offices is so that my realtors can be together, because they work off of each other's energy. And also, if you see a downtown sales office, you know, you think of Hingham or Situate or any of where our offices are, they're all, most in walking distance. So it's all about people and community in our organizations. So this is very much against our grain. Like, I don't envision, first of all, closing any offices as a result of this. I don't see us, I know there's a lot of commercial property managements here with Rich and others. I would never see us actually having less space, because that's a big part of who we are, our culture. So to answer your question, Chris, we've been doing a lot of this. And like I'm visiting my office meetings via Zoom, and I'm between 2 or 3 meetings a day on just my offices. And then I'm connecting with people with different department heads, as you are all doing. So this is nothing unique. But we're doing a lot of training online and a lot of recognition online. Mainly, I was always taught by the master, who is my dad, is writing handwritten notes. And Chris, I know you're a believer in that as well. And writing handwritten notes and calling people rather than just emailing, texting. I think we can still develop a connection. I do want to compliment Paula Harris. She's so good at this. I received a book in the mail yesterday about hope from Paula, and that was such a cool touch. It was so meaningful. And those are the things that we can do right now. I went on Amazon and bought a whole bunch of inspirational cards, and I've been mailing a few of those out every single day. And I think if we can just touch each other's hearts just a little bit every single day, that's really important. And the other thing that we've done, we're doing a lot with video, Chris. I'm not good at it. I'm really bad at video. So I've decided to swallow my pride and just do really bad videos. And I think in a way, my agents are kind of okay with that, because it makes them feel like, hey, she can do a lousy video, I can do a lousy video. So we've been connecting with each other that way. The other thing we did, it's a careful balance. And I know you guys are all dealing with this, because we have a need to support our staff, in my case, my 710 salespeople, and with jobs and income, right? So we want to sell our stuff. But on the other hand, we have to be really sensitive to what our buyers and sellers are dealing with out there, right? I mean, you guys are all dealing with that. You know, Angela at South Shore Hospital, I know you guys are doing the hospice walk. That was a careful balance. Like, how do I ask for money, but still be respectful for what people are going through in their heads and their hearts and physically, you know, maybe financially. So you guys have done a beautiful job at that. So we've been really pushing a lot of our community programs. And Chris, I think I sent one to you about the hospital. We, it's kind of a way to say we're all in this together. And by the way, if you really need to buy a house, we're here for you. You know, like Toyota has a commercial out there. If you really, I think it says something like, if you really want to buy a car, buy it from us. And so in other words, people are buying and selling houses. We can do that for them. And so it's, but to your point, it's hard to get, some of my agents are a little tenuous. They don't want to disrespect people. So trying to get them comfortable with that message has been interesting. So I don't know if that helps. Not sure if it really does, but.
Thank you, Carol. That was awesome.
Thanks, Chris.
Love your passion and enthusiasm.
I'd love to hear what you're doing because you always come up with great ideas.
Oh, I'll save that for a couple of weeks. That'll be the lure for you to get to come
Oh,
on.
that's okay. Fair enough.
So, Chris, let me, I was going to ask a variation on that, and I want to ask you and the educators that are on this call and the realtors. So much of the business is based on personal relationship and that face-to-face work. And the shutdown is accelerating the move towards technology, forums like this or communications like this. Is the personal relationship and connection going to change in education? Are campuses ever going to reopen? Are we ever going to have learning in the academy under the tree and people gathering together thinking, or is it all going to be virtual and we lose this, or does that personal touch become accentuated and more important, but you just do it in non-physical ways, like sending the notes in the books? And I've got Massasoit, Curry College on the line, and South Shore Conservatory. Where is that mix now with that personal touch and technology? And Kathy, is South Shore Conservatory able to shift much online?
We've actually been really lucky. So right now we have about 90% of our individual lessons are being taught online, and about 75% of our group classes are being taught online, and even our preschool and our kindergartens are going that way. But I will say that it's still not ideal, and in fact, in some ways, I think it's just it's been reassuring that it's not ideal, because I think that there has been sort of an idea of, oh, it's so much more efficient if we can just have our lesson at home. We don't have to come into the school. We could just see our teachers and do this online. We don't need that sort of in-person, connection. So we're finding that that's not true. However, I do think it's going to change the future. I do think that we will find that we may be doing workshops that way. We may be doing makeup lessons that way. We may be looking at other ways to get information out that's online. And we are starting to offer it for people who aren't necessarily either in our catchment area, or for people, we do a lot of music therapy work. And so we're doing some teletherapy, and we're able to do some things for folks within like Linden Ponds and places like that. We can still connect with them through video, but it's definitely not ideal. So I would assume that we'll be working to go back to the way we were with one-on-one, face-to-face.
Yes, good morning. Hi, at Massasoit, we're certainly dealing with this in a big way. Good morning, Carol. It's great to see
Hi,
you.
Paul. It's good to see you.
as you might imagine, all of our labs and clinical training, anything that's kind of a hands-on training requirement, we're not able to offer right now. So it's a huge scheduling challenge that we've had to go through. In cases where we could kind of flip the course, where there would be a mix of lecture and labs, we front-ended the lecture element, and then kind of hoping for the sunnier day where we could get back into some sort of face-to-face training programs, from allied health to diesel technology and HVAC, any of those programs, paramedic. Right now, we're not able to offer those, but looking forward to the fall, there are ways we can split courses. We can do a lab where we might only have 6 people in a lab, so we'll have to offer more sections, that type of thing. So it's a huge challenge right now. Enrollment is a big question mark. I think all of us can certainly, I'm sure, experiencing this at Curry. Any college in America right now has no way of knowing what their enrollment's going to be. We can make an argument that the community colleges present such a compelling economic argument that we'll see enrollment grow substantially. But on the other hand, our student body tends to be so financially challenged. Can they even afford a community college education? So right now it's a big unknown, and trying to forecast what's going to happen. In terms of connecting with the students, the president sends out a nightly message to the community with just updates and sharing some good news, ways in which people from the Massasoit community are pitching in, throughout the healthcare, the first responders, the grocery store workers, et cetera, delivery people, just sharing whatever good stories we can with our community and keeping them as up to date as they can be. We do forums like this with our students. The Student Senate just had their meeting yesterday in a Zoom meeting. We do town hall meetings with all of the students and with the faculty every other week. So it's created some challenges, but still having the face-to-face and personal contact is really important in keeping the community together.
Paul, I was just thinking, first of all, Massasoit does an incredible, you've got a population that you're serving that is, again, could be more impactful with this situation. And I was thinking also with, thinking about the domino effect of what you're talking about, and I'm sure Ken is dealing with the same thing. I was speaking to one of my realtors. He lives in Brockton, but he does a big rental market around all the colleges. And he actually works out of my Brighton office, and there's a lot of BC kids. And that market is completely dead. And, I was thinking about that, the fact that one thing leads to another. And then you go to someone like Rich, who owns, a property manager, where you've got all these property owners in there that will be affected. So there's a huge cascading effect to all these things too.
Yeah, there really is. There really is. I mean, the stories we're hearing from it's heartbreaking, the story here of what our students are facing with. More than 50% of our students work at least part-time. Many work full-time while going to school. They've lost jobs. They've lost family members to the virus. We have a student emergency fund we call the United Student Fund that on average would grant about $30,000 in a year for emergency situations for students. We're seeing as much demand in a day now as we typically would see in a month. I mean, the demand is exploding. In our food pantry, we can't offer face-to-face help, but through the generosity of Stop and Shop, we have gift cards that we were able to send to people that need help with food support. It's a huge issue.
Wow. It's really difficult. Good luck with all of that, Paul.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Carol, I need to scoot. Thank you so much. It's really wonderful seeing you and seeing everybody else.
Great to see you.
Ken, I think you're up next. I'll see you next week.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you, Chris. So
Yeah.
Thank you. Great to see you.
So I think Janice Bergeron is still on the the call here. Janice, do you have some sense, you're a transportation expert, a lot of fear about mass transit and what may be happening. What does the issues facing mass transit mean for the suburban real estate market and the suburban economy? Not to put you on the spot or anything, but, and you've got to unmute yourself, or maybe I have to do that for you.
Hi, everybody. Carol, it was wonderful listening to you, and I am a huge fan from afar, so it's nice to meet you virtually.
Nice to meet you, Janice. Thank you for coming.
Oh, no, thank you. From the transportation aspect, everything, so I do a lot of MBTA work, and my kind of expertise is TOD, transit-oriented development, and where real estate and transportation interconnect. So for the MBTA, I'm working on a number of different projects, large infrastructure projects, bus modernization, Green Line extension, South Coast Rail. All of those are moving forward with absolutely no blips, which is really surprising because everything from the MBTA is now virtual, which is a huge shift for them. They actually, I found this interesting, they bought 1,200 computers in 2 weeks and then got their whole team to be virtual and do everything from home. For the MBTA, that is a humongous accomplishment. And what we're finding is everything is happening quicker, believe it or not. Contracts are going out quicker. The new safety requirements needed for the construction workers are going much smoother and faster. They're not slowing down on anything. If anything, it's the opposite. We're having a hard time just keeping up with the demand, which is a wonderful thing. And I work with a lot of developers in Brockton, as well as in Somerville and Cambridge, and everything is moving forward. We haven't seen a slowdown yet. I think a lot of people are at this particular point, and I saw a huge shift just in the past 8 days. It went from being cautious to actually stepping it up. And people are tired of being at home, so I think they're being a little bullish. So that's what we've seen.
Janet, did you say you've seen that just in the last week?
Yes. Last week, it's been fascinating to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Very nervous 2 weeks ago. I used Rockland Trust, and a huge shout out to Helen Garvey and the Rockland Trust team, because I also received a PPP. I'm a small business. I'm a DBE. And I was very nervous at one point because I really thought it would be a slowdown, especially on the development side. And once I received that PPP, and I think once everybody saw that the funding started to come in, and that the agencies, especially the state agencies, aren't changing anything. I'm also on the DSB board, the Designer Selection Board for the state, and they also aren't slowing down. We're doing everything virtually, and we're sending those contracts out.
Interesting.
Okay, we're coming up on our 40 minutes. I'm going to throw out one totally unrelated question here to Mary Lou, who is on the call. I'm curious, in the new world with how people are trying to figure out reentry, as I pulled in this morning to get my pink cup of coffee, I was curious, have you started to look at pink face masks for your staff?
Yes.
Have you? Okay. I was wondering how long it's going to take for branding for companies.
As a matter of fact, I think they're being made.
Are they really?
I think so, yeah.
Good for you. That's great. Well, we're up to the 40. Carol, thank you. Thank you very much for coming on. Thanks for the leadership you've given the South Shore with our economic development plan and all the support of the chamber, and appreciate you doing this, and thank everybody for joining us. Next week on Tuesday, Ken Quigley will be joining us for 40 minutes of this, and check the website for the lineup of future speakers. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thank you,
Yes.
Carol. Have a
Be
great
healthy
day.
and safe.
You too.
Bye.
Yeah.